So NXT, most modern fans are going to know this as WWE's developmental territory that half the time is better than WWE. Of course, the first time I heard that name was after ECW's revival died. They made this reality show where a bunch of guys were trying to compete to be who would be the next WWE superstar, except, they were all guys from WWE developmental, and it wasn't really a reality show. And it was so fake that you could see right through it. I think the concept of sort of faking a reality show could have worked, but I don't think they did it right, and I think that I can fix it. I can make it to where it's a little bit more, it feels a little bit more authentic, even if it's not. And I can also make it where, you do a better job of building these guys as stars, because they didn't become stars. I mean, the resulting storyline of season 1 was the Nexus, which had a lot of potential to be really great, but there was a ball dropped on it, and, that's a story for another time. But the lack of star power in later seasons means that the formula established in season 1 needed to be redone from the ground up. So the first problem with the show were that there were too many challenges and not enough matches. If you're going to make a wrestling reality show, I feel like since you're using actual wrestlers, what you should do is have them wrestle. I don't see what's so complicated about that. That's certainly a good way to get people invested in a character. I think a lot of people would buy into it if they saw these guys wrestle a little bit more. So basically my fix for this is that the eliminations, although the pros poll will be important in deciding who is up for elimination, the elimination itself will occur via match. So the second problem was that the timing for the eliminations was just all over the place. The Daniel Bryan, Michael Tarver eliminations, because they said that maybe they deserved it. You could honestly use that to build their characters. You shouldn't be eliminating them from the show because they say that. That's kind of dumb. I mean, sure, I guess it kind of makes sense. But at the same time, one thing that could be a little bit better is if you just pace the eliminations a little bit more and maybe start them sooner. I'm going to explain how I'm going to pull that off. So the third problem is that the reward of getting entrance music that was used during season 1 fucking gave away the winner. Yeah, once Wade Barrett won that, and that entrance music was not used on NXT whatsoever, you knew he was going to win, and you knew that was going to be his entrance music, the one that he worked on. And the thing is, even if they'd have given him the entrance music, even if they'd have let him use it, he still would have been given away as the winner because he was the only one with entrance music. I mean, it don't make any sense. So my fix for this is to not give that reward out because that's stupid. If I were to use the entrance music thing, I would have maybe the final 4 all get entrance music. That seems a little bit more fair. So we're going to start with episode 1. In episode 1, we're going to open up 6 immunity slots. Basically, the 6 rookies who win these immunity slots over the next 5 or 6 weeks will not have to compete in the first elimination match. Simple as that. The first of those will be given away via first impressions poll. And what that means is that basically they will have the audience at home and the audience in the building over the next week vote on who they want to stay based solely upon their first impression. Now, of course, you could have this poll be done, over the course of say the first half of the show, maybe just have some pros, have some matches, not really include the rookies in any matches while conducting that poll. But I think having it over the course of the week, it lets you also have the first impressions of the people who get matches. They're going to have a little bit of an advantage in this. I will admit that. But I think it works pretty well to have this because this shows who people are gravitating towards. This will give you an impression of overall who people are more likely to like based on their appearance and their mic skills based on one promo, most likely. So one of these immunity slots is going to be given away in a tag team tournament. The rookies will be teaming with their pros. This allows the rookies to get adjusted and work with their pros as sort of trainers, like in terms of actually working in the ring as well. It actually gives a little bit more insight to them in the ring. So first thing we're going to do, the first match of this is going to be Wade Barrett and Chris Jericho versus Daniel Bryan and The Miz. I give the victory to Wade Barrett and Jericho here because that narrative was already being built. Barrett and Jericho were a very cohesive unit from the get-go in the original NXT. Daniel Bryan and The Miz were very much at odds. I think it makes perfect sense for Barrett and Jericho to be able to get the W here and for Miz to berate Bryan for not doing it right because, you know, you want to build that underdog story. So the next match is Justin Gabriel and Matt Hardy versus Michael Tarver and Carlito. This is also on episode 1, by the way. This match I would give to Tarver and Carlito. I'm not going to explain too much why at this stage. I'm going to explain it in a moment, but during these first couple weeks, I kind of want to build Michael Tarver as sort of this secondary monster. And there's a reason I'm going there. He's very aggressive, so it makes sense for him to come out of the gate swinging like he is. So that is why I think I would give him this first win. And again, I'll get a little bit more into what I would do in terms of elimination later down the line. I will later down the line explain why I'm building him this way this early. So second episode, we're going to announce the results of that poll and give that person immunity. That is going to be an immunity that's going to be very hard to control. And it's going to make it a little bit surprising who could end up getting eliminated. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult to plan that, admittedly. The second challenge is going to be a promo competition, kind of like the ones they did, where they're given a topic and they have to talk about that topic, because that worked really well for these particular rookies. And I think it's probably going to be Wade Barrett, which kind of makes what I want to do with the tag tournament weird. But if it's not Wade Barrett, then it doesn't. So promo competition for one of the immunity slots. So we've given away 2 immunity slots right here. So we're going to have 3 matches, and one of them isn't part of the tag tournament this week. We're going to have Daniel Bryan versus Justin Gabriel. We're going to have Daniel Bryan lose this match because, again, we want to build that underdog story, even if we don't really capitalize on it. I think Justin Gabriel going over sort of makes Daniel Bryan, again, get berated by The Miz. We're going to build that storyline between Daniel Bryan and The Miz, and we also want to build Daniel Bryan having very much an uphill battle. They pulled the uphill battle thing with Daniel Bryan in the actual show, and I think that was a good story arc to go with. So next we have Darren Young and CM Punk versus Heath Slater and Christian. I think they really wanted to push Darren Young a little bit more than Heath Slater, so I think I would have Darren Young get the win here. I don't really remember the story of those two all that much. They kind of were around the middle. Darren Young wins, sure. Next we have Skip Sheffield and William Regal versus David Otunga and R-Truth. I had to look and remember who his pro was. I would have Otunga and Truth win this match because it really seems like Wade Barrett and David Otunga were the big two that they were kind of deciding between at the beginning. So I think those two are going to sort of build up this rivalry throughout the show. I think that works really well. So episode 3, the third immunity challenge is them selling programs. That should be fun. And we're going to have Slater versus Sheffield as a singles match. And Skip Sheffield is going to win because we don't want Skip Sheffield looking too weak because Vince McMahon likes big guys. We're going to hit the semifinals now. Wade Barrett and Chris Jericho are going to face Darren Young and CM Punk. And Wade Barrett and Chris Jericho are going to win. I don't think that's that surprising. I think that's going to be somewhat of an interesting match, especially since you got Jericho and Punk in there. So they're definitely going to show these guys how it's done. And yeah, Wade Barrett picks up the win because I really think they wanted to build up Wade Barrett. I think it was very obvious they wanted to build up Wade Barrett from just about the very beginning, so may as well not even try to hide it. Next we have Otunga and Truth versus Tarver and Carlito. Now you would think because they want to build up Otunga, I would have Otunga win, but I think Otunga and Barrett in that rivalry, Otunga, they would want to play the babyface perhaps. So I would actually have Michael Tarver as sort of this monster heel win that. Like, you have Wade Barrett and David Otunga who are sort of sliding between face and heel during this whole thing. And Tarver is very much a heel during these first few weeks. So I think I would have Tarver win this semifinal match. So next week in the finals, we're going to have Wade Barrett versus Michael Tarver with their pros also as part of the tag team. So this is going to be a pretty simple episode. We're going to have a strength challenge for the fourth immunity. We're going to have Daniel Bryan and Justin Gabriel versus Heath Slater and Skip Sheffield just to try to impress people. And I'm going to have Slater and Sheffield win, and I would have Daniel Bryan eat the pin because, again, we want Miz berating Daniel Bryan at every turn. Now we have the final, Barrett and Jericho versus Tarver and Carlito. I would have Barrett win and get that immunity. If he already has the immunity, I would have Tarver get it. Now, obviously, if Tarver already has the immunity, give it to somebody else. Just give it to somebody else. And that's 5 guys immune at this. At the end of episode 4, I just have, like, CM Punk versus The Miz, just for fun. I think that'd be good. So let's move to episode 5. Episode 5, we're going to have a speed challenge for the 6th immunity. We're going to announce next week that there's an elimination match. And the booking here is going to depend on who's up for elimination. You can have some booking that sort of builds up that elimination match that's going to happen next week. So now that we're at the episode where we do the first elimination, I'm going to explain how we progress from here. And the further explanation is going to be very much a summary of some bullet points that I would do because it's a little bit more hard to plan concretely everything until like the last couple of episodes. The week of elimination, the winner of a challenge gets next week's main event against a pro of their choosing. At a certain point, Carlito is going to be unavailable for that. I already know that. So basically, yeah, you just get a main event match in order to impress people. I think that's a good reward. And the week after an elimination, basically you get immunity. The pros poll, if you end up in the bottom 2, it doesn't matter. You don't have to compete in the match, essentially. And this week's challenge, I would make a punching contest just for fun. So here are the people that I think would be the best options for elimination. I picked 4 that I think would be elimination targets. And I'm going to explain each of those. Daniel Bryan, possible first elimination. I think that could possibly lead to him, coming back later. Perhaps with the Nexus storyline, he could be left out of the Nexus, but that's a rewrite for another time. Now, of course, my other options are Skip Sheffield and Heath Slater. Those are somewhat minor ways to show that wins aren't everything and that it just takes one bad performance in order to have your dream shattered. And I think possibly having those two against each other could be very interesting since just like a week or two ago, they were a tag team. And the other option is Michael Tarver because that creates a major shock factor. And I think it creates the shock factor they were looking for when they did the Bryan and Tarver out of gameplay elimination that was bullshit. And I think this creates a shock factor, but I think it works. So basically for later episodes, I'm going to have eliminated contestants stay on the show because it lets them further their characters a little bit easier. I'm going to have fewer, silly challenges, perhaps more of the stuff that's just good. Especially later in the season, I'm going to almost entirely get rid of stupid challenges. And eliminated contestants are going to start playing a role in who gets immunity. I'm going to explain how that'll work when I talk about some specific episode notes. On week 8, I would make the elimination a triple threat. The winner gets immunity next week. In week 10, I would do elimination via a 4-man tournament. On week 11, I would have a tag team match, and the losing team is in an elimination match. So there's really no immunity there. On week 13, I would have a beat the clock challenge against the prior eliminated contestants, and the loser is eliminated outright. So there's no elimination match. That creates a shock factor. And in week 14, the final 3 face their own pros to lead up to the finale. So we have the finale in episode 15. That's where it was in the original. I think they could very well like have the last 3 or 4 just stay around for longer if they still wanted to keep it at 17 episodes as the original plan was. But I think the 15 episode marker works a lot better because it times it with the Slammies. It times it with CM Punk versus John Cena. And it provides the right timing for Nexus to happen. We're going to keep the same elimination order for simplicity's sake at the moment. And we see that all the contestants from this season have grown to respect each other. This builds us towards the Nexus, because the Nexus kind of came out of nowhere. It was good that it came out of nowhere, but I think the slight hint that it could happen, I think really helps it. This is the only elimination that will not be via match. This is an elimination that will strictly occur via pro poll. And again, this is where we have our final 3. So basically, the final match is going to be decided basically the 2 who are not eliminated via the pro poll. And the final match is between David Otunga and Wade Barrett. And they shake hands before and after. This really drives home the fact that the split in the Nexus later would happen between those 2. But that's a rewrite for another time. So my idea for doing this rewrite is that it gives the Nexus a little bit more character to work with. And it also does a better job of giving later NXT seasons a less shitty formula to work with. Do you guys think I did a good job of this? Do you guys think I shouldn't have changed this at all? What would you guys have changed about the first season of NXT, the reality show? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, this is your friendly neighborhood Boonslayer signing out. I really hope I did not run out of footage on my camera.